Hello my friends, this is Grace and welcome to my channel. Welcome to process video 218. So I'm showing you a sketch from Scrapbook Stash, and I believe it's Scrapbook Stash. I think so. It's a sketch and it was a challenge for this month. And no, I think it's from the Scrap Room. I will make sure to link that in the description box below because I don't even remember anymore. Anyways, I haven't had time to participate in challenges like monthly challenges, but because of the COVID-19 and because we're home, I was able to do this and I was able to turn it in on time, which is kind of surprising for me because again, before I didn't have time, but we're trying to find the silver lining in this new territory that we are all in. So I'm glad that I have scrapbooking to kind of help me to distract myself from all of the stresses that's going on around me. So again, I am basing this off of a sketch that I found online, and I will make sure to link that in the description box below. So the sketch is for a single page layout, and it originally has just a 1 4x6, but you know me, I am not just a single photo gal. I do multi picture pages. So I am using 3x4 photos here, and I'm just gonna maneuver them in the way to kind of resemble the sketch. The sketch called for some layering of pattern papers onto your left side, and then there is a tag on the right bottom page or bottom of the page. So that's kind of what I'm going to mimic here. I will be using scraps of paper because I have a lot of those, and I'm just showing you how I usually do my mitered frame. If you're new to my channel or you've not, you don't particularly you how do I say this? Like you don't you're not familiar with my style. I like to do this especially when I have strips of paper and I want to frame my cardstock, but I don't have much of that particular paper anymore. This is what I do. I cut the specific pattern paper into strips and then cut the corners into triangles so that they're like a frame style, and then I just adhere that to my cardstock. Now usually I do trim my my pattern paper strips into a little bit smaller than my cardstock base, just so that you can see the cardstock a little bit better on the outer edge. But as there's also times where I've just kind of made that flush all the way to the edge of the cardstock. It just depends on the look that I want. Now I pulled out a few pattern papers here that I think would be good to good together on this paper. And what I usually do is I base my color schemes on the photos, because I feel like if I pull out colors from the photos, that they will all blend better. And so the photos are of a kind of food trip that my husband and I took on our way up to Hearst Castle. We stayed at, oh, I can't even remember the little town that we stayed at, but it was just on the outskirts, just before where Hearst Castle is. I want to say it was like San Carmen, maybe, or it starts with a C. I can't remember. It's not San Luis Obispo because that's like further down south. It's just a little town. Anyways, before we went on this trip, I am a planner. I'm a big planner. And so before we went on this trip, I went on Google and found out like the best food places and best places to stay and things like that. And I was getting a lot of hits for this one particular Mexican restaurant. And I'm sorry, I don't even remember what it's called, but it had a lot of great reviews. And so I told my husband, this is where we're going to have our dinner. And bless his heart, he just kind of follows what I do, and he just goes with what I mostly want when I'm planning these things. And so we went there, and their food was so good. Granted, we okay, we stayed there like on a July 2nd. So there was a lot of people traveling at that time, a lot of people vacationing because it's close to 4th of July. And they didn't have a lot of people as far as like staff. And so at this time, like when we came, it was a Tuesday night. So you would think that it wouldn't be so busy, but they were busy. And so I will give their service kind of like a two if it's like between 1 to 5, because it was really bad. We had to wait for our food for a long time. We had to wait for a long time to be seated because they didn't have a lot of wait staff. However, I'm not going to like overall my rating for this restaurant is a 4 or even a 4.5 because their food was so yummy. We got, I think my husband got an enchilada plate, and I got one that has like a combination chicken relleno with some enchilada, and it was just so good. I mean, you go to some of these Mexican Tex-Mex restaurants, and they're like their rice is dry, their beans doesn't have a lot of flavor. But this one, I mean, even the rice was so good, and their beans was just flavorful, man. So yes, if you go to Hearst Castle and you go to that little town just south of where you go for the Hearst Castle, and check out the Mexican restaurant there, I highly recommend it. Anyways, so now we go back to the layout. And again, I told you that this particular sketch had tags on the bottom right. And so, excuse me, and so I pulled out my trusty die cuts book and pulled out some tags that I thought would work well. Now, that green one on the bottom, I don't know if you noticed, but it had like a dinosaur accent on it, but I just really wanted a tag part of it. So I cut that part off, and I am putting that specific die cut on to the bottom of it. And I think that's what I love about the die cut storage that I have, is that I can look at my die cuts and just see what I can use, and not even look at it as a whole, just kind of look at it in like little parts of it and see what I can use. Because honestly, I guess I can use that I can wait to use that tag for when I do have a dinosaur themed layout, but I doubt that I will be able to use that for that specific theme. So I could at least use a part of it, right? And so that's what I like about that die cut storage. And then I have this awesome thickers sticker, and I would use that as part of my title. I have a scrap piece of paper that's just lined, and I'm going to use that on the bottom, and that's where I'm going to hand cut or hand write my journaling. And then that green piece that I'm using on the back, it just felt like I needed it to go further down, like it needed to spread across the paper. And because I don't have a lot of that because it's a scrap, I just cut that in half and just tuck that in where you won't see where the space is. And that's one of the things that I love about layering papers, is that you can layer them and it won't show that they're not a whole piece. And here I'm just kind of seeing, yes, there's a lot of not strong edges, but like sharp edges. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of sharp edges on this layout. And so I figured I'm going to soften a little bit, some of it a little bit with the, with my corner rounder. And I'm just inking the edges of this with the tea dye ink. I have the tea dye ink right on my table because that's kind of the color that I like right now. And it also has a blending tool right on top of it, so I can just use it when I'm making my layouts. And then now I've adhered everything, or the background, and then I'm just adhering all the other stuff. Now, I did mat my photos with some cardstock, just black cardstock, just to give that a little bit of pop of color against all of the patterns. And then initially I had the 2 landscape photos going one, close together so that it will mimic the sketch. and then the vertical photo onto the top. But I just felt like I will have more room to put my title and also my journaling block if I switch the pictures that was on the right, if I move the landscape on the top and then the vertical on the bottom. And so I'm just now taking out this awesome sticker, and I'm going to put that on top. Again, if you're familiar with my kind of style right now, I like to marry two different fonts for my titles. And so I'm going to have that script. Awesome. And then I'm going to put Mexican on the bottom of that. I'm just kind of calculating, spelling out or counting the letters for Mexican, because I like to start in the middle of my word just to make sure that it is centered. So I counted Mexican has 7 letters, and the middle one is the I. And then I'm going to use that. Now, these stickers are from Studio Calico, and I've had this for a long time. So as you can see, I don't have a lot of the specific letters anymore. I don't have an N, I don't have an M, but I'm going to kind of reuse some of these other letters and numbers so that it will work for what I needed. So with the I, because I don't have an I anymore, I use the 1. I don't have an N, I turned over a U and turned that into an N. The same with the M, I turned over a W, and then with the E, I use a 3. So that is kind of some of the ways that I like to refashion my letters or my stickers, my letter stickers, so that it will work for my layouts that I need. And I think at this time, it's a good exercise for us to kind of see our stash in a different way, because the government has asked us to kind of stay home if we don't need to go out. And so especially with scrapbookers, that if you have been scrapbooking for a long time, you've amassed a good amount of stash. So this is kind of a good exercise to see what in our stash we can use before kind of heading into the scrapbook store or to the craft store to get something that we think is something that is just the right embellishment or right product to use in our layouts. We could just shop our stash first and then see how we can use them for our crafting needs. And so with tags, of course, you needed something to finish it off, and I decided to use some of this just single colored twine from American Crafts. And I debated if I wanted to use green or red, colors that were already existing in my layout, and I decided to use this kind of blue because it coordinated well with the sweater that my husband is wearing in this particular in the photo. And so I thought that would use that. And then I also pulled out, using, again, my die cut book, I pulled out some little die cut word strips that I felt like would be fun to add to this layout. And I'm just adhering that to the photos. I will add that to kind of the open spaces or white space of my layout or of my photos. Now, I also kind of not debated, but I was toying with the idea of maybe doing a sticker of like his food, her food type of thing. But I just went with these words. I feel like they're better than if I were to do the his plate or her plate type of thing. But I want to know, I'm kind of curious, if you were me, would you have labeled the plate pictures with his plate, her plate, or would you have just stuck with these word strips or phrase die cuts? So I'm curious. Let me know in the description box below what you would have done. And just a few more things to add. I will add the journaling after. Later on. I'm not going to add that today, and but I just wanted to show you how I finished this layout off with just a few more dots onto the bottom left and the top right, and that's going to be my layout. I will have some close-up shots at the end of this, and I hope that you guys like this video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys another day. Bye.